Before the noise of the world touched you, your body knew how to vibrate in light. Long before you learned the language of pain, there was a place deep inside the temple of your body that pulsed with pure remembrance. This sacred point, hidden not in some faraway land, but encrypted in the very design of your energy system, was once your compass. It still is. The ancients didn't forget it. You did. But it waits patiently, glowing in silence, just beneath the veil of your breath. Have you ever wondered why one conscious breath can calm storms within, or why the gentlest touch in the right place brings tears to your eyes? It's because you are wired for sacred healing. This is not a metaphor, it is frequency. There is a place in your chest, what Thoth called the Ba, where light, sound, and breath converge. When you place your awareness there, even once, the entire body listens, and it begins to heal. If your soul feels this truth, comment below. I remember the ancient frequency. Let your remembrance activate others. This is not about mystical imagination. It is about energetic architecture. The body is not just a vessel, it is a harmonic temple. Beneath the sternum, between the heart and solar plexus, lives an energetic gateway, where the electromagnetic field pulses in spiraled patterns. This is where your being once sang in tune with Source. When the mind quiets and attention lands here, the entire blueprint reawakens. Thoth, the master of cosmic intelligence, encoded this in the emerald tablets. He spoke of a point where fire meets form, where the divine geometry of your being is written like script on a scroll. You do not need to chant loudly or seek outside rituals. You need only presence, total, reverent presence, touching the energetic center with breath and intention. Then the energy unknots, then the light remembers its shape. Modern science brushes against this truth. HeartMath Institute speaks of the heart's magnetic field governing emotional coherence. But what they call coherence, Thoth knew as resurrection. Because when the energy body comes into alignment, what was dying begins to live again. Not in theory, in felt, trembling, knowing. Your blood warms, your skin tingles, your breath deepens. Not from outside stimulus, but from divine re-entry. The ancients did not worship idols. They activated geometry. The ankh, the eye, the spiral. These were not decorations. They were mirrors of what lived inside you. The Ba is not symbolic. It is anatomical and etheric, pressing your awareness into it with truth, not fantasy, not fear, is like striking a tuning fork in a cave. The sound echoes, reshapes, rewrites, and your body, that miraculous archive, begins to follow the music. This point responds to vibration, not volume. Ra, Om, Hu, and other sacred sounds weren't mantras for the mind. They were tools for unlocking the seal. When you hum Ra from your heart, not your throat, you send waves through this hidden point. And the cells begin to remember the pulse of Eden, the breath of first creation, the moment when spirit kissed matter and said, "You shall live in light." You were not designed for decay. You were designed to adapt. But adaptation is not alignment. You've adapted to stress, to noise, to fragmentation, and the Ba waits beneath it all. Unchanged, unspoiled, the reason some heal with a word or a breath is not because they are special. It's because they remembered where to place the signal, and they placed it there without doubt. Close your eyes. Place your hand on your chest, not as a gesture, but as a sacred act. Feel the space between beats. That space is the 0-point stillness. That's where healing begins. Not through effort, but through surrender. Not through control, but through coherence. As you rest there, your body stops defending. It starts receiving, and receiving is the origin of restoration. Language often distorts what the soul already knows. That's why silence heals faster than argument. Why humming can soothe what pills cannot. You were not born with pharmaceuticals. You were born with frequency, and every layer of your being carries a memory of the time before interference when source and self were one sound, vibrating in perfect union. This is not the time to chase healing. It is the time to return to it. You do not need more steps. You need remembrance. And one conscious touch infused with reverence, breath, and sound can begin the process of reversal. Not because of magic, but because truth, when lived in the body, reorganizes the chaos, and what once felt broken begins to flow again. Healing, in its purest form, is not about fixing. It is about releasing what never belonged. The pain, the fear, the stagnant patterns lodged in your tissue, they are not the disease. They are the memory of disconnection. And when you bring sacred awareness to the Sefek Ba, you bring light into the blueprint. You remind your cells of their original arrangement. Before trauma, before distortion, before the world taught you to forget, the breath becomes the conductor. Inhale with intention, and your energy body opens. Exhale with surrender, and density loosens. Each breath that passes through your chest is a drumbeat of remembrance. The Sufi mystics called this the breath of Allah. Imagine a river that has been dammed for years. The pressure behind it builds silently, and the moment the blockage loosens, the water doesn't trickle, it rushes. Healing feels like that. It can be sudden, overwhelming, beautiful. You are not falling apart, you are flowing again. The pain is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign the body is processing what it never had the permission or power to release until now. In Thoth's writings, there is reference to a flame that remembers. He was not speaking of fire, but of a frequency, a kind of inner ignition that awakens the luminous body. This flame is lit when the Sefek Ba is touched, not with demand, but with devotion. And once it's lit, the entire nervous system reorganizes itself around that inner light. The spinal cord lengthens. The cranial bones soften. The organs begin to hum in tune again. You do not need to chant in Sanskrit or decode hieroglyphs to access this. You need honesty, reverence, stillness. That's all. Place your hand. Close your eyes, inhale into the point between heart and breath, and simply say within, I remember. Let the energy spiral, not in your thoughts, but in your sensation. This is not a visualization exercise. This is an entry point. The vibrational gate opens when you become still enough to notice what's always been there. That subtle hum behind your ribs. That soft flicker in your chest. That is not imagination. That is resonance. The nervous system does not speak in words. It speaks in wave. And every healing begins not with an explanation, but with a frequency shift. You feel different before you know why you feel different. The ancient mantras were never about religion. They were tuning forks. Rai was not a god. It was a tone. Om was not a belief. It was a door. When you speak or hum these sounds from your center, not your mouth, you send vibrational instructions through your fascia, through your bloodstream, through your subtle anatomy. The body listens. The soul responds. And the veil begins to thin. Your hands are electric. Your breath is encoded. Your awareness is the key. Together, they unlock what medicine cannot. Because you are not a mechanical system. You are a song. And every note you lost through stress, shame, or suppression can be reclaimed, not through effort, but through energetic attunement. You do not add healing. You reveal it. And when that touch occurs, even once, with full presence and breath and stillness, the healing begins. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. The skin warms, the heart opens, the spine straightens. Not because you fixed anything, but because you finally remembered who you are. In this center, time dissolves. The past no longer echoes in pain. The future stops whispering in fear. All that remains is the pulse of presence. You become neither memory nor anticipation. You become rhythm. You become breath. You become stillness, alive. And in that stillness, you hear things you forgot could be heard. The ancient pulse of your own divine intelligence humming beneath the scars. It was never about finding the cure. It was about remembering the code. Every illness, every imbalance, every fatigue is not a punishment. It is a message. Your body is not betraying you. It is trying to awaken you. It holds the record of your trauma, yes, but also the map to your healing. And that map is drawn in vibration, not vocabulary. You must feel your way home. This is why some can sit in silence for hours and feel more healing than from years of therapy. Not because they escaped life, but because they dropped into the place beneath it. When the breath slows and descends into the sacred point, when the mind no longer interrupts with demands and labels, the truth emerges not as thought, but as sensation, as frequency, as knowing without explanation. Thoth taught that true wisdom is vibrational, not intellectual. He called it the soundless sound, the pulse behind the spoken word, the tone behind the name of God. It can't be learned. It can only be entered. This is what initiates understood, not secrets to be hoarded, but frequency to be stabilized. And once stabilized, the healing radiates outward like ripples on sacred water. There is no chant more powerful than your silent presence. There is no frequency more ancient than your undivided attention. When you bring your full self, unarmed, unguarded, unashamed, to the sacred point within, something happens that can't be taught. A melting, a merging, the body stops bracing. The soul stops hiding. And the veil between flesh and light does. You begin to feel your body not as a thing, but as a field. The skin softens. Not because it is touched by another, but because it is touched by truth. You feel warmth in the chest, a slow thawing in the throat. Maybe even tears. Not tears of sadness, but of recognition. The ache of coming home, because this touch is not new. It is ancient. It is the first touch, the one you've longed for beneath every longing. There is no technique more powerful than reverence. Reverence is not ritual. It is relationship, a way of being that says, I will no longer treat myself like a machine. I will no longer rush, force, or manipulate my healing. I will touch my body as if it is sacred soil. I will breathe as if I'm nourishing a garden, not putting out fires. And in that devotion, miracles move. You begin to sense the grid, the way energy moves through you, like rivers through land. Some pathways feel open, others blocked. That is okay. You are not broken. You are simply remembering where the flow once lived. When you meet those blocks with judgment, they tighten. When you meet them with presence, they soften. And slowly, the current returns. Let your hands become instruments of light. Let your breath become a chant, not loud, not performative, but internal, intentional. Let your touch say, I see you. Let your breath say, I trust you. Let your awareness say, I will not abandon this temple again. And in that quiet ceremony, the body opens, the spirit sighs, and the healing begins to lead itself. Because healing is not a project. It is a partnership. You and the light within, finally speaking the same language. You and the body, no longer at war. You and the divine design, walking hand in hand. And it all begins with one sacred touch, right here. There is a sacred intelligence that lives beneath thought, older than language, deeper than belief. It pulses beneath your ribs like a second heartbeat, one you may have ignored for years, yet it has never stopped whispering. It's the vibration of source moving through the lattice of your being, and when you bring your presence to the exact point where that pulse converges, the center of your chest, the seat of the Sefek Ba, you do not need to ask for healing. Healing arrives uninvited, because it was always waiting for the door to open. The door is opened, not with force, but with feeling. Not with logic, but with surrender. This is why sacred sound was never just sung. It was felt. It was breathed into the bones. The sound Ra was not a word to the ancients. It was a key. When you vocalize this frequency, with breath that rises from the belly, moves through the chest, and resonates at the Sefek Ba, you send harmonic codes into your tissue. Your body becomes the instrument, and God becomes the musician. The body listens to intention. It is shaped by belief. It organizes itself around coherence. That's why fear contracts, and love expands. Why anger accelerates, and stillness steadies. Every emotion you feel is a sound wave. Every thought is a frequency. And when these internal signals align at the central node, this sacred point within the chest, you don't heal like a broken machine. You remember like a sleeping temple waking up. You were never meant to forget this. As a child, your energy naturally flowed in patterns of wholeness. Your breath was full. Your heart unguarded. Your body trusted itself. But slowly, the noise of the world layered over you. You learned to tighten, to shrink, to silence that inner hum. But then you are being called back. Back to the original frequency. Not by me, not by words, but by something ancient inside you that hears this and already knows it's true. To bring your awareness back to this center is to begin resurrection, not metaphorically, but energetically. You become less dense, less tangled in the illusion of separation. You start to notice synchronicities. Your hands tingle with heat. Your breath begins to deepen without trying, because your body is no longer confused. It is being led by a signal it trusts, your awakened presence. This is the blueprint, Thoth, preserved. Not to control the world, but to free you from it. He did not teach healing as magic. He taught it as remembering that sound and breath, when married with sacred attention, can restore the entire grid of your energy body, that your cells are not bricks, they are instruments. And when tuned correctly, they sing health into being. Touch here, and you speak to the nervous system in its native tongue. Place your palm on your chest, not absent-mindedly, not hurriedly, but like a priest placing their hand on holy ground. Feel the breath expand. Feel the skin soften. Feel the heart listen. Even if nothing seems to happen, something ancient already has. Your body recognizes this signal. It responds without question. This point is the meeting place of the seen and unseen. The Egyptians called it the mouth of the light. The Vedas referred to it as the Hridaya, the spiritual heart. Modern science names it the parasympathetic switch. But none of these labels matter. What matters is that when you bring reverent stillness to this center, the body exits survival mode. The field expands, and you enter the sacred river of restoration. This restoration is not always gentle. Sometimes, it purges what you've stored for decades. Memories rise. Grief trembles through your ribs. Energy surges. Do not run from it. This is not regression. This is recalibration. Just as the body shakes when trauma releases, so too does it tremble when truth returns. Let it shake. Let it soften. Let it realign. You are not becoming something new. You are shedding what was never yours. Every disease is a distortion. Every symptom is a signal, and the healing begins not in treatment, but in touch, the kind of touch that carries breath, sound, and the deep presence of soul. You don't need to know all the answers. You need only feel your way to the source. The body never stopped believing in you. Even through years of neglect, of pushing, of silencing, it waited. And now, as you rest here, as your breath slows and your awareness deepens, it begins to speak again, not in words, but in vibration. And its message is clear. You've returned. Let this remembrance wash over you gently, not as a tidal wave, but as a sacred raindrop by drop, breath by breath, recalibrating what the world once disfigured. Your body is not asking for perfection. It is asking for resonance. The alignment of your breath, your awareness, and your touch is what it has longed for. Not a healer, not a medicine cabinet, but you fully present in your own temple. As you rest your awareness in the Cephalic Ba, feel how the breath becomes rounder, fuller, almost musical. This is not coincidence. This is entrainment. The moment your focus meets sacred geometry inside the heart's field, the body begins to reorganize. The cells begin to speak a common language. Hormones begin to harmonize. Electrical impulses find a new rhythm. This is coherence. This is communion. Do not rush this. The body has waited lifetimes. Give it permission to unfold without timelines. There is wisdom in the slowness. There is healing in the pause. When you stop demanding change and begin offering reverent contact, the body opens like a flower to the sun. The petals may tremble at first. That's okay. Healing begins with vulnerability, not with willpower. In sacred texts, there is mention of the hidden chamber where the voice of God speaks without sound. This chamber is not a place you travel to. It is the space within you that only opens when you stop trying to force your way in. It is the sanctuary that opens through trust, and it lives just behind this point you now touch, deeper than the bone, lighter than the air, vibrating like a memory long held in silence. When Thoth spoke of healing, he did not give long instructions. He spoke of light geometry, of frequency maps, of entering resonance with the all. This means that when you harmonize with the source inside your own field, you access the entire field. The 0 point becomes available. The body becomes less a vessel, more a tuning fork, amplifying the original frequency it was born to carry. There is a reason why the most powerful healing moments come in stillness, not noise. Because silence is not empty. It is full of all possible tones. And when you rest in that stillness, when you let your breath dissolve into the point behind the breath, you are no longer seeking healing. You are becoming it. A living pulse of divine rhythm, steady, spacious, sovereign. What you are touching is not just flesh. You are touching memory. You are pressing into the intersection of soul and matter. And in doing so, you give permission for the old stories to fall away. Not all at once, but like leaves in autumn, one at a time, effortlessly, naturally. This is what it means to shed density, not through destruction, through remembrance. You are learning to feel again, not with emotion alone, but with energy. The tingling in your chest, the warmth in your hands, the softness behind your eyes. These are not coincidences. They are confirmation. Your body is speaking in the only way it knows how, by releasing what was never true and inviting in what always was. Let go of what you thought healing had to look like. Let go of what you were taught about disease. These are not punishments. They are signals. And when met with reverent presence, even the deepest illness can become a doorway into awakening. This is the divine paradox. The body reveals its light not by escaping the wound, but by embracing the place where it began. You may begin to dream differently now. You may wake up remembering things you never studied, ancient languages, symbols, sacred tones. This is not fantasy. This is frequency echoing back. The sacred touch has stirred the archives. The light codes are rising, and all of it begins. Not in doing more, but in touching less. With deeper awareness. You are not here to chase the divine. You are the divine remembering its own pulse. And with every breath you take into this center, every soft whisper of presence, you are returning home to the harmony that was never truly lost, only quieted until now. The more you touch this center with presence, the more the body yields, not in surrender to weakness, but in surrender to truth. What once felt rigid begins to loosen. What once screamed in pain begins to soften into sensation. This is not coincidence. This is the intelligence of the body revealing itself layer by layer. Every vibration you send through the Cephalic Ba is an instruction to your cells. You are safe to open again. There is a sacred spiral within this center, a vortex of memory and potential. The ancients called it the serpent of light, not because it slithered, but because it rose. When the breath is conscious and the awareness is unwavering, this spiral begins to move. It awakens energy long coiled at the base of your spine and invites it to rise, not in force, but in grace. This is not the awakening of adrenaline. It is the awakening of divine rhythm. As this rhythm pulses through your system, you may notice your spine aligning on its own, your posture becoming regal, as if some invisible crown has returned to your head. This is the body's response to coherence. When the inner world aligns, the outer structure reflects it. You don't have to manipulate your body into wellness. You simply let it remember its divine architecture. Thoth taught that healing is geometric, that every cell carries light-encoded information, and that disease is merely dissonance, a break in pattern, a forgetting of sacred structure. When the Cephalic Ba is touched, the original pattern begins to emerge again. Your cells don't fight. They harmonize. They return to the crystalline template you were formed from, not the corrupted one the world projected onto you. In that template, illness cannot anchor. It can visit, but it cannot live, because the resonance of truth expels distortion naturally, not with resistance, but with light. Just like darkness cannot survive the sunrise, pain cannot survive presence, especially presence offered in devotion, especially when you meet the body not with frustration, but with listening. And here's the mystery. You don't need to understand it for it to work. The mind will ask questions. The ego will demand proof. Let them speak, but don't give them the microphone. The body knows. The energy knows. The breath knows. And the more you let the inner knowing lead, the less the mind needs to control. Healing doesn't come from answers. It comes from alignment. Your job is not to fix. Your job is to feel, to bring reverent curiosity into the space within your chest and explore it like sacred land, to hum softly into the space, to chant names like Or-A, H-U-O-M, not to make sound but to be sound. Let the vibration echo inside. Let it ripple. Let it rise like smoke in a sacred room. You are not performing for the universe. You are merging with it. At some point, the separation fades. There is no more you and your body. There is only frequency. There is only the dance of light within form. And from this place, even a glass of water tastes like medicine. Even a breath feels like prayer. Life becomes less about control and more about communion. Every moment is a touch. Every step, a resonance. This is what the priests of ancient Egypt knew. This is what the mystics protected. Not dogma, not doctrine, but frequency maps, encoded in breath, in gesture, in geometry. All of it pointing back to the sacred truth. Healing is not a transaction. It is a sacred remembering, and it begins the moment you stop grasping for results and begin listening for resonance. Feel the pulse behind your sternum. Feel the vibration beneath your words. Breathe slower now, deeper. Let your presence drip like honey into the space behind your ribs. Touch here, whisper here, sing here, and watch how the body does not resist, it rejoices. Because this, right here, is what it was always waiting for. There will come a moment when the need for external confirmation dissolves, when your healing no longer depends on opinions, diagnoses, or timelines, because the proof will be in the feeling. The way your breath opens like a flower, the way your body begins to trust itself again, the way peace hums beneath your skin without needing a reason. This is the quiet revolution of inner coherence. This is the return of your sacred rhythm, As you continue to touch this point, not with urgency, but with reverence, you may begin to notice subtle miracles. The shoulder that always held tension softens. The sleep that once escaped you returns like a gentle tide. Thoughts that spiraled endlessly now move like quiet clouds. These are not side effects. These are signals. The field is changing. The signal is clear. You are vibrating closer to your true code. Healing has never been a destination. It is a tone, a frequency you learn to live inside. The body, when offered the right signal, doesn't need years. It needs resonance. This is why spontaneous remissions baffle science, but not the soul. Because once the original frequency is restored, disease has no foothold. It simply leaves like a shadow fleeing sunrise. Thoth once said, "That which you touch with true vision becomes light." To touch with true vision means to bring the inner eye, the awakened awareness, into every breath, every movement, every intention. When you breathe into the Sefik Ba with this vision, you are not imagining, you are illuminating. You are bringing divine sight to the place the body has hidden its most ancient treasures. And those treasures, oh, how they awaken when honored. Gifts long dormant begin to pulse. Intuition sharpens. Sensitivity becomes a strength. Your senses expand beyond the visible. You begin to feel people's energy before they speak. You hear messages in silence. You remember dreams not from this life, but from before it. And all of it arises from this one sacred point, this portal, where soul meets matter. Touching here is not just for healing. It's for remembering your role as a bridge between dimensions. You were never meant to just survive. You were meant to resonate, to be a living field of harmony, so coherent, so aligned, that others heal in your presence without knowing why. That is the power of restored frequency. It doesn't push, it invites. As you live from this center, you begin to speak differently. Softer, but stronger. Clearer, but with compassion. Because your voice begins to carry vibration, not just information. The words matter less than the energy behind them. This is how the ancient ones healed with sound. They didn't chant to impress. They chanted to transmit, to stabilize the field. And now you are learning to do the same. No more war with the body. No more begging it to behave. You are entering sacred partnership now. You offer presence, and it offers truth. You offer breath, and it offers peace. You offer touch, and it offers light. This is the divine exchange, and it doesn't require belief. Only practice, only listening, only trust. The more you stay in this frequency, the less you identify with illness. The less you define yourself by struggle, because your identity begins to shift. Not as someone who needs healing, but as someone who is healing. Your presence alone becomes medicine, not because of ego, but because of alignment. Because truth, when lived fully, heals everything it touches. And all of this began the moment you touched that point, not with doubt, not with force, but with devotion. You placed your palm on the altar of your body. You breathed as if your breath could carry codes. You remembered that sound is a doorway, and you walked through, quietly, completely, without needing to be told it worked, because you felt it did. Now you are no longer touching a point. You are entering a state, a field of awareness that doesn't come and go with emotion, but remains steady beneath it all. This is the healing you've always been seeking. Not escape from pain, but return to present. Not chasing light, but realizing you are the light, refracted through breath, through skin, through sacred sensation. And in this place, the body is no longer the obstacle. It is the oracle. What began as a simple act, your hand over your chest, your breath dropped into stillness, has become a portal. You didn't unlock something small. You accessed the source of life itself. The zero-point field is not out there in space. It is here, in you. beneath every heartbeat, within every silence, waiting always for your return. And now that you've found it, you don't have to lose it again. To remain here is a practice, yes, but also a promise. A promise to no longer abandon yourself. To honor the rhythms of your energy before the routines of the world. To choose coherence before chaos. You may still face hardship. You may still feel pain. But now you carry something you didn't before. Remembrance. And that remembrance makes you magnetic. It draws healing to you. It draws clarity. It draws miracles. If you ever feel disconnected, do not panic. Simply place your awareness back in the center. Place your hand gently. Breathe with reverence. Hum a sacred tone, even in silence. You don't need to fix anything. You need only tune. And like a stringed instrument, finding its pitch, you will feel the vibration rise again. This is not fantasy. It is frequency, and it is yours. Begin your days here. End your nights here. Anchor your thoughts here. Let your speech come from this place. Let your choices emerge from this field. Let the energy of your life spiral outward from the center of coherence, not the edges of confusion. This is how you stabilize the frequency, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Your healing is not yours alone. It ripples, it blesses, it remembers for the world. So rest now, not in exhaustion, but in arrival. You've crossed the threshold. The energy knows your name. The field has been touched, and your body, once caught in noise, is now a chamber of tone, a sacred vessel of pure vibration. Let the pulse remain. Let the silence sing. Let your life become the song of one who remembers. The one who remembers their vibration never begs for reality to change, they create it.